Hello, and welcome to Here We Are, the mindful podcast for millennials, where it's all about remembering where we've been, knowing where we're going, and taking up space in the present through the art of storytelling. I'm your host, Teka, and I'll tie together the practice of presence and life lessons with faith and mental health nuggets too. Whether sharing my own experiences or featuring a special guest, I hope to inspire you to take control of your story and take control of your life. I hope you receive what you need from today's episode. And remember to check out the show notes in the description for links that I reference. Ready? Let's journey. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Here We Are, the mindful podcast for millennials. Really excited that y'all are tuning in today because this is actually the season 1 finale. Believe it or not, we have went through a whole season of podcast episodes, and we have a very special guest with us today. But I'm wondering, before we hop into our special guest, if you all can relate to something that I have experienced. Have you ever been online, just scrolling through Instagram, TikTok, and you see posts where you're like, oh, I feel seen. I feel heard. This is me. She is me. Or you felt like you saw a genuine community. You felt a connection. Well, that's how I connected with Miss Taryn Hill. Taryn is the creator of High Functioning Black Girls. You may have seen it on your Instagram, scrolling through your TikTok. If you are on the mental health side of TikTok, you've definitely seen it. But High Functioning Black Girls is a community that is focused on destigmatizing mental health treatment and care for high achieving Black women and high functioning Black women. I'm really excited to be interviewing Taryn today because she is not new to this. Taryn is true to this. She is the awardee of the Joy Award through the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, where she was awarded funds to continue her impact, continue building community, and she has her master's in social work. So again, Taryn got the credentials to be here. But I'm excited because I too am a social worker. So we're about to hop into our mental health bag as Taryn shares her story. So I'm excited for you to be here, Taryn. How are you?
Hi, Teka. I am so excited to be here, and thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I always love when social workers can connect, so I'm super excited.
Listen, me too. So I know that when we talked before the interview, you were sharing with me some of your story just about coming into social work. I know everyone, when I talk to social workers, they all have a different reason why. Like, what is our motivation? What is our why? What is keeping us in this field? Because it's not easy, especially if you're in the mental health side. And so I want to definitely have you share with listeners, and I want to hear as well your story, your why. What is it that brought you to social work, or what in your life really brought you to the point that you're at today? Because we know that it wasn't easy. It wasn't an overnight success, and people see the impact and the success right now. But I'm sure that there's a story behind all of the glimmer and the gold. Or shall I say pink? I'm wearing pink today for Taryn, y'all, for high functioning Black girls. So
thank you, Teka.
Yes,
I mean, because
you're
pink makes the world go round. Like, when you see pink, you're just
That's
reminded of your femininity.
It does.
It's just one of those things. So I was like, why not? Like, everything's pink.
I love it. Look, y'all, and there's a running joke between me and Taryn because she happens to be part of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and I am part of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So when she said pink makes the world go round, I'm like, that's it.
But you know, I got red on for Teka today. So we're meeting in the middle, you guys. You know,
we're meeting in the middle.
It's all love.
I love it. But yes, femininity, it helps us to feel the softness that we deserve to feel. I can relate to. I mean, this is not only pink, but it's also velvet. But I agree. So I think that's a question I do want to ask to get us started, just really quick about high functioning Black girls. Like, you chose pink. When did this movement start? When did the community start?
Absolutely. Great question. And I think, honestly, it started, so legally with the LLC, it started in early 2022, but God gave me the vision years before that. And it was really through personal experiences. And so, you know how we wrestle with God gives us something and we're putting it off. And so I was that
Listen.
girl with the idea in the note section. And one day I just heard God so clearly in December of 2021. I will never forget it. And he's like, if you don't do this, like, imagine what will be withheld from you. And I'm like, I don't have this together. I don't have that together. So it was really birthed from personal experiences, going through chronic illnesses,
Mm-hmm.
one of which is hidradenitis suppurativa, which is something that is not talked about, but it can be very common amongst Black women.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think there are about 3 of them that I went through at one time, and one I'm still kind of navigating through, which is hard to talk about. But in
Yeah.
particular, HS. At the time I was going through it, there wasn't a lot of research around it,
Mm-hmm.
especially including Black women or Black people. And
Yeah.
so, I was going to different doctors, and no one could help me. Like, they're just like, oh, this is contagious. And, it's not. But
Wow.
there was just so much misinformation. And I really found myself up against a wall, because what do you do when no one can do anything for you? And so
Mm-hmm.
I felt helpless, but I was still, a high achieving Black woman. I was going to school, I was going to work, always smiling, just always achieving. Like, when people think of me, they often tell me, like, when you say you want something, you do it. And I appreciate that about you. But I think sometimes it can be damaging to always just
Yeah.
be seen as this person that's just achieving. And, I grew up in a 2-parent household.
Yeah.
Went to church, like this on the outside stereotypical situation. And so I
Mm-hmm.
felt like no one ever really asked me, was I okay? Because I looked okay. And
Yeah.
so I really just battled inwardly with depression and anxiety. And so after going to therapy and getting that formal diagnosis, which stung, to be honest, because I'm like, not me, like,
Listen.
I'm the one
Yeah.
helping everybody else. I'm the social worker. You know how it is. It's like sometimes it's this superhuman aspect of being a helping professional that we forget that we're too human. So I would say after going through all of that, I really sat down and was like, man, where are the girlies that show up and it doesn't look like they're going through,
Yeah.
but they are. Like, I wanted that safe space, and
Yeah.
specifically amongst Black women. And so that's kind of how high functioning Black girls came to be, is that I was looking for community to not feel alone through
Yeah.
my circumstances.
Yeah. Wow. So there's a couple of things you said that I'm like, I'm sure a lot of people can relate. One being that sometimes our mental health is impacted by our physical health, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't always connect the two, or they may connect it later. But I used to work with a group of teens, and I would tell them all the time, like, your head is connected to your body. So that means how you're
Absolutely.
taking care of your body can affect your mental wellness. And so for you, you're experiencing chronic illnesses, the doctors are not able to tell you what's going on, and that can feel lonely, that can feel
Yeah,
isolating, that can feel frustrating,
absolutely.
all of the things. And I'm sure a lot of women can relate to that. And then
Yeah.
the other thing you said was you were looking for a safe space. And
Yeah.
so I want to kind of talk about what your experience was like before you even got to the realization of, like, I need a safe space to feel seen, heard, known, all of the things. Like, what was life like you said it earlier, 2-parent household, going to church, people would look on the outside and feel like, girl, you had it good. But it's clear that you were like, I know what it feels like to not have a safe space, or I know what it feels
Yeah.
like to not necessarily feel seen. So tell us about that experience, maybe the parts of Taryn that needed that safe space that came up during your experiences with chronic illness and mental health.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. And like you were saying, on the outside, it looked like these things, but, I'm a first generation college graduate. Although I had both parents, I went through a lot of financial struggles. And so
Mm-hmm.
that also impacted, my well being. And, circling back to what you said about connecting the physical with the mental health, I think it's really important that we pay attention to that, especially as Black women, because oftentimes that is our indicator that there might be something more than a physical issue. So I really hope that in time we all pay more attention to that. And I think these spaces that you and I have cultivated on the internet are so important because
Mm-hmm.
we are shedding light on the differences that we face as Black people and those signals and symptoms that are different
Yeah.
than what's in the DSM, right? Or what we
Listen.
might see a white person go through. It's totally different. Um, but I think that Taryn was that version of me. Um, felt like I don't know how to explain it, like kind of screaming, but like no one
Mm-hmm.
could hear, like kind of just like a muted scream is kind of how I would feel. Um, to be honest with you, Tika, I got to a point where I felt like I wanted to die. That's how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
I was so depressed.
Yeah.
Um, and I think looking back at it and working through that, I realized I didn't want to die. I really just wanted a way out, right? I wanted
Mm-hmm.
relief. And I think a lot of times we think that, and sometimes we just need that therapist to walk us
Yes.
through and slow us down and be present and think of different ways to get through or include some coping mechanisms that we hadn't thought of to really help us explore all of our options. And
Mm-hmm.
I think by slowing down and going to therapy, I was able to one be present, but then I started to, because I had that emotional support, I was able to kind of stabilize myself, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then look for other resources. And I joined I found Facebook groups that helped me to cope. And I never would
Wow.
have thought about that just in my high emotional state, right? Without having that support. And
Yeah.
finding those Facebook groups allowed me to find the doctors who helped me kind of navigate through some of the things so I just huge advocate for therapy because sometimes we can let our
Yes.
emotions guide everything and they are indicators, not guiders. And so I just really want us
Come on.
to, you know, reimagine the way we think about them and not let them drive all of our decisions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They are indicators, not guiders. And so even when and thank you for sharing that vulnerably in terms of
Yeah,
the fact that you were at a point of depression where your emotions were saying, I no longer want to live. I can't do this anymore. I don't
yeah,
want to be here anymore. Right. But really, they were trying to guide you towards the resources you need for that relief.
yeah,
And I'm
absolutely.
sure a lot of Black women can relate to feeling like I have a lot on my plate, got a lot on my back,
Mhm.
on my shoulders, on my heart, on my mind, to the point where I just need some relief. But they may
Yeah,
feel like, and I can speak for myself too, like they may feel like, I felt like this is, weak, or now I'm not being the strong Black woman, or I have to
mhm,
achieve because this is what is expected of me. I can't present this way. I got to put on a mask. And essentially, that is what high functioning depression is,
yeah,
where on the outside, you're functioning well in a lot of different areas of your life, work, school, you know how to show up, you know how to get the things done.
yeah,
But there is a
yeah,
moment, whether it's when you get off work and you finally get behind that door and you lock it and you just fall, you crumble, you feel
yeah.
heavy, you feel tired. Work is getting done, the tasks are getting done. You're able to show up to the happy hours and the birthday parties, but maybe
Okay.
your house is in disarray, or your mental
Yeah,
state, you just feel numb, you feel disconnected. And so when we think about high functioning, we're saying that a lot, and I'm not sure if people know what that means. I gave my own experience of it, but how would you describe high functioning depression or
yeah,
anxiety when it comes to Black women specifically? Because you said something too that I'm like, girl, as a therapist, I don't like using the DSM all the time. Yes, there are specific disorders that people, especially Black women, meet down to the T with criteria, but there are some things that I think are so nuanced and specific to our cultural experiences and how we show up in the world that the DSM can't, there's nothing for that yet. Um, and so I've seen a lot of times high functioning anxiety or depression, but how would you describe it?
yeah. And you know what? I think my definition is similar to yours. It's showing up to everyday life, but really just wearing this mask and pretending that everything is okay because the world doesn't hold space for Black women, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think I went through this realization that we have to save ourselves. Like nobody's coming to save us but us. And so I think, my definition is similar. It's showing up, it's doing all the things, it's going to the parties, it's going to the happy hours, it's getting the awards at work, it's, everything. We're moms, we're sisters, we're,
Mm-hmm.
girlfriends, wives, all these things. So we're achieving in all these areas, but oftentimes there is not space held for us. And so
Yeah.
that's what it means to me.
Yes. There's often not space held for us. How
Yeah.
did you know, like, what are some of the signs or the indicators? Like, can you share a little bit more about how you knew that, okay, I'm not feeling seen. There's no space for me. I'm having to wear this mask. Like, in everyday life, what did that look like for you?
Mhm. It looked like exhaling every time I got a moment to myself. Like, okay, I can take this mask off, right? Especially thinking back to when I was in my master's program and I was a student
Mm-hmm.
therapist, at a school with children. I can't put all that on them, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then I think also I was doing that in a white environment. So I'm learning the culture of
Oof.
a demographic that does not look like me. It even went as far as to me not even changing my hair because that was
Mm.
just too much of a conversation for me to. I didn't have capacity for that. So I kept the same hairstyle all year. I came in smiling because I didn't want to give people a reason, even though I had everything else going on. I felt like I constantly had to
Yeah.
compartmentalize my pain. And, eventually that just grew out of control. And again, like you said, there are different signs maybe in our own homes. Like I definitely had depression room, like clothes
Mm-hmm.
everywhere, the water bottles, like that was
Yes.
absolutely me. And that was like
Yeah.
embarrassing. Who wants to admit that? Who wants
Mm-hmm.
to tell anybody like, I'm bathing myself, but my room, like I don't have the capacity to keep my space tidy. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess that was my experience.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of women can relate. And so I hope that if you're listening, one, there is like the purpose of your community. There's now a stigma or a wall that's being let down of shame
Yeah.
or of any
Yeah.
type of guilt or hiding. Like I'm alone in this, or this, like I might be this, like the C word I hate saying, but I might be crazy because all this is going on. So I don't want anyone to know this. You're not alone. Like there are things that are common when you're experiencing high functioning depression, anxiety, like Taryn said. You said even like the depression room, like that's what it can look like. That room that you can close the door when people come over and visit, but behind
Listen.
it, things are in disarray and you might feel
Yeah.
shameful about that or even just self-critical. And so
Yeah.
you there's something else you said that I wonder if this is if we believe that this contributes to it, but you said that you were in a white environment where you had to kind of put on a face like down to not changing your hair. And that's a big deal for
Mhm.
Black women. Okay.
Okay.
There's
Because
like
listen, I'm
a,
gonna come with a style every month. Okay.
okay. And so, how did the environments that you were in growing up contribute to how you felt and the way
I'm
that
so
you
glad
saw
you asked that.
yourself? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that because that was absolutely a big part of it. I grew up in private schools, white private schools from third through
Mm-hmm.
12th grade. And so
Mm-hmm.
um, constantly being in spaces where there was no space for me. In high school, I
Yeah.
remember trying to start a club for us, and they're like, "Oh no, we can't just exclude everyone else. We can't just have anything just for Black girls." Mind you, I went to a white female high school, so
Yeah.
that was hard within itself, right? Just having all women, but then it was just like, no, like we don't want anyone to feel excluded, and so that was hard because I'm a teenager trying to find my identity.
Yep.
I had cultural groups outside of school that I belonged to, but
Mm-hmm.
you spend most of your time at
At
school as a
school.
child. And so
Yes.
that was hard. I think I've always had to compartmentalize. because of
Mm.
the spaces that I grew up in. So I think it just became second nature for me to just hold everything in because there was never space for me. And so that also was a huge part of high functioning Black girls. And I just want women to see this community. And even if they're not ready for therapy, at least they
Yeah.
identify with the content. Like, okay, I am not alone in this. Like, someone
Yeah.
else out here gets it, they've lived that experience. And so that's really important to me.
Yeah. It's funny that in the schools, when you were trying at that age to create the space, to create the community, they were like, we don't want anyone to feel left out. Well, hold on. I already feel left out. That is why I'm trying to do
Okay,
this. And
exactly.
that's just another example of how they don't,
Yeah.
how oftentimes in society and predominantly white spaces, there's this ignorance that Black girls too, Black people too deserve to have safe spaces or spaces dedicated to them without it being us excluding anyone. It's not us excluding anyone because we're technically already excluded, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
so that makes sense in terms of why you're like, look, this is in at a young age, this was already your mission. I'm sure God already knew,
Right.
like, girl, you gonna create space and community because whether you
Mhm.
are 14, 24, 34, it's going to come to pass. And so you
Yeah.
were already doing that work at such a young age.
Yeah.
Who in your life was part of that, like, support system, or part of
Mm.
maybe the team you had that lets you know, like, I can do this, or I can at least try to do this for right now and maybe come back to it later?
You like said some things that just gave me chills because I even like think back to that age, and that's absolutely right. Like, I was trying to cultivate community really young and didn't even realize that, right? But I
Hmm.
think my parents always made me feel like I could do anything. Like, that's
Hmm.
hands down. Um, and I know everyone is not spiritual or belongs to a faith background, but at that time I was heavily involved in the church, and my mom had this friend. I used to actually be very shy, and so she was like, "Taryn, you're gonna blossom. Like, you
Hmm.
are quiet right now. You're shy," but she was like, "God has so much for you to do in the earth, and you're not even gonna recognize yourself 10 years from now." And at the time, I'm like, okay, you hear a word sometimes and it's
Listen.
like, okay, I hear you.
Okay.
But it was constantly affirmed to me through different people, not only in my prayer and my dreams, but then people would come back to me and would see, this. And so I just think that was an anchor for me. And then I had a turning point in my career where my job was actually cultivating communities, literally right before High Functioning Black Girls.
Wow.
I worked in health technology, and I literally um, built social care communities online to really transform the way social care is delivered. So
Hmm.
making sure that sometimes when people go into offices to get help, they're looked over. Offices are
Hmm.
at capacity, but the company I worked for streamlined all of that. And so
Yeah.
here in Ohio, I was responsible for building the community, talking with the nonprofits, getting them
Yeah.
to join. So I had to build that from scratch. And so even back then, I knew that God had something for me to do separately, and that literally
Mm.
helped me to feel comfortable launching into this.
Yeah.
I was so afraid of that, like public speaking. Like, but I was like, I know I have to do this because there's something that God wants me to get from this for what He has me to do. And it honestly set me up to be able to launch high functioning. So it's just crazy how everything works together.
It really is. And you know what? That is evidence too that you don't have to be perfect or have it all together to still be used by God. And us over here, so on the Here We Are podcast, we definitely integrate faith. And not to put it on anyone else, but recognizing that there's a part of you, your spirit, that needs to also be taken care of. And so having people that speak life into you or see the things that you may not see in yourself, and you having that, Taryn, really did kind of water the seeds that were being planted along the way. So having your parents' support, having, the woman or a mentor in the church who was like, hey, you know what? You may not see it now, but I can see it. and it's going to blossom and it's going to be fruitful. Or having the jobs that are like, we prioritize this. And you know what? We want you on our team to help us to do this because we see your gifts, we see your talents. And I think that's just such a beautiful thing, because that goes to show people that you don't have to have it all together and be this one woman band in order to
Yeah.
make impact. Like, there are people around you who were supportive, who were pouring into you, and who really were giving you the spaces to develop all of these skills and techniques. And so I can relate. And it can feel scary. And when you say when someone kind of talks to you, so a lot of times, if you're not aware, like in the church space, depending on your denomination, your faith, but a lot of times they call it like prophesying. So they'll basically say they can see something in you that is going to come to pass in the future, whether it is an experience, whether it's a person, whether it's a connection, whether it's even a thing. Oftentimes it's not out of the blue. It's confirmation from something that you kind of knew. You're like, I mean, I felt that, but I didn't know if it was for real, if it was just me or if it was actually God. And so sometimes when people do that, you can kind of be taken aback, like, me? Are you sure? Because I was already doubting myself. And so here you are saying, I'm going to do these things. How did you overcome any of that self-doubt you had, or any, maybe even shame or self-criticism of like, I'm shy, I don't really want to do this public speaking. Y'all want me to do what? You think I'm gonna do who? What? Okay, I'm not sure. Me? No. How did you overcome that?
Yeah. Honestly, Tika, I just jumped in. I think I've spent so many years talking myself out of what I really wanted out of life, what I knew God called me to do, to the point where I was just like, you know what? You can't babysit this anymore, because
Mm,
there's a generation that is dependent on what God has put inside of you. So either you're going to do it or he's going to use somebody else. And when I thought about it like that, that really propelled me to launch. And I also
yeah.
think just through conversation with some of my best friends, like this is my last year in my 20s. So I was like, I don't want to end this decade. Yeah, I was like, I don't want to end this decade not feeling like I poured out everything that God had in me. And so that really woke me up as well. And I was like, you know what?
Mm,
I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it scared. I'm going to do it afraid. I am just going to start. And through, time, maybe I'll start to feel more comfortable. And I think the more that I talk, the more that I share my story, I do feel
mm-hmm.
more comfortable. So I think it's a matter of just jumping in.
Yeah.
We can talk ourselves out of so much. Like I would
Oh,
literally
yes.
create a story from beginning to end and have my rationale as to why I'm not going to do something. And I think I just stopped doing it. Like I jumped in.
Yeah.
So
You took a leap of faith. You were
I
like,
took a
look,
leap
I'm
of
gonna bet
faith.
on me. And I think
I'm a
that's
bet
what it
on me.
takes. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think I spent a lot of time in consecration, like getting myself right,
Mm-hmm.
going to
Mm-hmm.
therapy. I was like, Taryn, why
Mm-hmm.
not? What do you have to lose? Like just try. And if it doesn't work, at least
Yeah.
you tried. And so I think I shocked a lot of people. Um, Even my friends would say, like, you know what, you don't post on social media. So I know you're passionate about this because I see you posting every day. And I was like, yeah,
Yes.
like this, I could spend my life doing this work,
Yeah.
showing up for Black women and just making sure we have space to be all that we are and
Mm-hmm.
that we have space to be all that we become. Like I could literally do this forever. So
Yes. And this started, you said December 2021, correct?
December 2021, yes. And then started posting last year.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I was like, then February of this year, well, I started
Mm-hmm.
posting on Facebook, and then February this year, we started on Instagram and TikTok. And I think in a matter of like 30 to 60 days, God blew my mind on TikTok. And things just,
Listen, TikTok will do it.
girl, when I say it was like Ty Tribbett said, only one night, it was literally just like my life shifted in a night. And
Mm,
thousands and thousands of Black women just started to follow the page, like, oh my gosh, I need this community. And I just cried because I'm just like, sometimes God just wants you to just take that first step,
that's it.
and that's it. And He will unveil everything. And literally, this year, I can't even put this year into words. Like it's been a beautiful year. Literally, almost every month, it's just been something else. God is like, okay, here, okay, here. Like He has just done exceedingly, and going to being awarded by Taraji for the work that we're doing, going to the
Yes.
BET Awards. I couldn't
Yes.
imagine this if I like.
Yes.
This has been a phenomenal year, and I just really thank God for not allowing me to get in my own way to the
Mm.
point of self destruction, because that's where I was headed. So I'm so grateful,
I
so
am
grateful.
so excited for you because, like you
Thank
said,
you.
you almost got in your own way, but you trusted. You were like, look,
Yeah.
I know that I've been doing the work. I've been receiving what I need to get to a space where I can then give other women that same gift. And you took a leap of faith and you got out of your own way and God blew your mind.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I love about God. I feel like he's like, you thinking real small right now. Let me show you something.
Listen,
And
you
your
know that
mind
meme
is
with the teddy
blown.
bear? Yeah, the
Yes.
teddy bear. Like, who doesn't know that? If you haven't seen it, please find it, like Google it. Because
Yep.
God is like holding, we want to hold on to stuff so bad. Like, no, I'm okay with this little life right here. Like, I don't want no changes,
Mm-hmm.
because that's also our trauma sickness. Like, no, I don't want any changes because I don't know what's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen. But God has this, like, big teddy bear behind his back, and he's just like, if you would only just trust. Like,
Yep.
by the time I give you what I have, you're not even going to want what's in your hand. And we really
Mm.
have to slow down and just yield, honestly. Um,
Yes.
so
That's awesome. So, what would you say has been like the most surprising or maybe even the most fun change that you've experienced? Because, of course, taking leaps of faith can be scary sometimes, and it takes hope, it takes faith, it takes courage, but it can also be fun. And so, what are some of those
yeah,
things that have surprised you, or you're like, oh my gosh, this is my life? What have those moments been
yeah,
like?
absolutely. Again, like the fact that Taraji has said my name and knows who I am, like that's enough for me. Like,
Yeah.
that we're out here doing this work
Yep.
alongside of Marcel Henson in the community. And so
Yes.
I never had been to LA. Like, going to LA was so fun. There was a cohort of us who won. So meeting other
Okay.
Black women and men in this space who are doing the work was just so refreshing to be able to sit and chat and make connection. That has been a highlight for me, is
Yeah.
that. But honestly, I think also with showing up online, like, I love
Mm-hmm.
things that are authentic, and I'm like, I get to show up and tell the stories of so many Black women every single day. And I love that because, again, we have to show up for ourselves. We have to cultivate the spaces that we need. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind being one of those outlets. I know there's so many, like,
Yeah.
you are
Yeah.
out here doing amazing work, therapy for
Thank
Black girls,
you.
so many different Black women who are
Yes.
leading in the community. And I just enjoy being a part of that work and showing up.
Yeah.
Oftentimes trying to post in the morning so someone's
Mhm.
mind is renewed before they leave out the door, right? Or they
Mhm.
feel, an ounce of hope after seeing our post. Like, that brings me joy. So that's fun to me, is being able to show up and change one corner of the world each day.
Yes. And even as you're talking about it, I can just see like you're lighting up. You're like
Yeah.
recognizing or the joy is actually radiating from you. And I can even speak to my own experience of your impact, Taryn. Like coming across your posts is it's not even a coincidence. It's amazing that you say that you are intentional about posting in the morning so that the first thing sometimes people see hopefully is an opportunity or a post or a word that'll renew their mind, that'll help the trajectory of the rest of their day. Like that's how you know this is a God thing, because you're recognizing like it takes intention. And I felt it, like certain posts that you've put up, whether the ones that are my favorite of Megan Thee Stallion, but that's just because she's one of my, that's your girl.
Yes. She's a high functioning hottie. I mean, she is truly
She
us. And I just
is
say she's everything. Like, she is literally
everything.
living high functioning out. And so I have an intern that works for me, and like she's always
Mhm.
bringing Megan stuff to me, and I'm like, yeah, let's post it, because she's the it
Uh-huh.
girl. Like, who doesn't want, Megan? Like, she's awesome.
Exactly, exactly. And so when you post those things that are relatable too, right? It's
Yep.
not a whole bunch of, therapy speak, a whole bunch of mental health
Yep.
jargon. Like no one has to have a degree to
Yep.
understand what it feels
Right.
like to experience anxiety or depression from the perspective of a Black woman. And that's why it's so palatable too, the way that you post, because it can span across not only types of women, but I'm sure generations. Like, I hope that your work is reaching girls in high school, girls in middle school, girls in elementary. I mean, look, the struggles are
Mm.
starting as young as elementary school, all the way up
Yeah.
to women who are rediscovering themselves in their, more wise ages of the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and kind of coming back to who they are. Like, your work is touching a really full and wide breadth of the type of women, the type of Black women who need it. And so I have felt it. I repost your stuff often. I'm sharing it with my girls because I'm
Mhm.
like, this is me. This is me. Like, I can relate
Yeah.
fully. So,
Absolutely. And we are reaching the younger audience. Actually,
mhm.
I'm a little girl I mentored years ago. She's in high school and she's like, can we start a high functioning for teens? I said, well, we're going to pray on that. So, but she follows and reposts everything. And like the fact that, I think even to the point some of the posts have truly like saved her life, like
Mm,
that makes it all worth it, that this is reaching the younger women, but it's also reaching mid-age women. Like, this is for
mhm,
everyone. It's not just a millennial space. This is for Black women because for too long, generationally, we've been silent or overlooked. And so, yeah, this is a space for everybody. And I wanted to touch on something else you said, because you said it's not like this therapy overkill, right? Like,
right.
it's relatable. You can see yourself in the content, and that was something that I really wanted to be careful about. I didn't want this to just be a therapy page. I mean, sometimes we might share different,
Right.
topics or, things that are um, in season with certain times of the year.
Yeah.
But there are so many people doing the work online that I didn't want to reinvent that. I wanted Black women to see themselves in this content. And so I'm so glad that it has impacted you. And thank you so much for sharing it. And yeah, I really want Black women to see themselves more than anything, more than preaching it to them. I want them to see themselves. And I thought
Mhm.
it is important to have that space online because we don't see that too often.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. They see themselves, and I think that the reason it feels so genuine is because some of the content you're sharing your own story, right?
Yeah.
Like, I remember, I think you posted something about taking medication, and I was like, a lot of Black women are not as open about that, or even just not even open about sharing that they do take it, but open to even being recommended to take medication. And I have told clients oftentimes before, I'm like, medication is not a magic pill, but it's also not, it doesn't define you. It doesn't say like, oh, now that I take this, I have to, you don't even have to take it for the rest of your life. But it's okay to say in this season, I need some assistance to help to lower any of the barriers that are keeping me from living my best life. And sometimes that's what happens because there's chemical imbalances, there's hormonal imbalances, and you might need a little help. And that's okay. Because if you had diabetes, you would take your medication. If you got asthma, you would
Mhm.
use your inhaler. And so because you have depression or anxiety, it's okay to take medication. And so you sharing your own story, I think is also what builds the genuine community, because they're like, she's not just saying this from the mountaintop. Like, Taryn is down here in the trenches with us and she gets
Yeah.
it.
And that again is so important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So much stigma is in our community around medication. And obviously within the right guidelines, want to speak to
Right.
that because it can truly change your life. Like, when I
Mhm.
started to take medication, girl, I was cleaning, I was working out. Like, I felt like I could
Yeah.
do anything. And
Yeah.
like I said, it could only be for a season. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
death sentence. It's not something that you have to adhere to forever. For some people, it's situational. And so it's
Yeah.
okay to consult with your doctor when you feel like, you're at a place where you can wean off. Like, that is okay. But I think
Mm-hmm.
even personally, I had so much stigma around taking medication for years. It's a
Yeah.
taboo. Even with religion, it's just like, put everything in
Yeah.
God, right? Don't
Mm-hmm.
You don't need therapy. You don't need medication. Like, God's gonna do it in an instant. And not saying that He won't,
Right.
but sometimes there are collaborative pieces that will bring us to our healing that we need to be open to. And I think one of the
Yes.
stigmas that I experienced was thinking that it was going to change my brain and I was going to be a different person. Like, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to take the medicine because I just knew that once I took it, I was going to be
Yeah.
different in a bad way. I was going to be crazy. And I
Mm-hmm.
know, like you said, a lot of women struggle with that. And it took me, like my mentor and my internship supervisor, she was on medication.
Yeah.
And although she was a white woman, like I appreciated the fact that she was someone who appeared to be strong. And she was like, Taryn, it's okay if you need this. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think talking with her about it and seeing someone who shows up to life every day
Yeah.
made it okay for me to be like, you know what? Go ahead and get that so you can stabilize yourself and get yourself together.
Yes.
So I'm a testament that it doesn't change you for the
It
negative, it changes
doesn't.
you for the better.
It does. It does. And of course, if talk to your doctor, talk to your provider so that you can have what works for you because everyone's body makeup is different. But also, I hope that more women are open about talking about it, like your internship supervisor, like mentors, like people who say, look, you may look at me as someone who is where you want to be and I take medication. And so that is also what helps me to sustain. And more women being open about it, I hope continues to destigmatize it, but I think you're doing a really big part in that. So thank you for
Thank
sharing
you
that.
so much, Tika.
Yes, 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 yes. So as we kind of start to wrap up, is there a specific lesson or a message you would have for the high functioning Black woman, the high functioning Black girl who was listening to today's episode? What would you tell them?
Great question. I would just say it's okay to be vulnerable. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to accept the help. Like we've been talking about, you don't have to be strong. There's community out there. It's not just high functioning Black girls. It's Here We
Mm-hmm.
Are. It's again therapy for Black girls. Black girls have anxiety. Like there are communities that want to support you through this. You don't have to carry it all by yourself. You are not a burden. And yeah, like there's support and you're not crazy. And I just think I am so impressed with this generation and how we are showing up to do this work and to normalize, um, mental health and support. And so our ancestors walked so we could run. And so just
Hello.
know that it's okay. So I just really want Black women to see us, see the women that put ourselves together and know that, we're going through it too. And it's okay that we
Yeah.
can walk through that together.
Yeah. I love that. You said one of my favorite words, vulnerability. And so I
Yeah,
hope that whoever's listening heard that and knows that it's not a weakness, it's not a thing to be ashamed of. So thank you for sharing that.
absolutely.
I typically ask this in the beginning of the episodes, but I want to ask it now after, hearing your story, after you sharing your story. Let's say that, someone was walking through Barnes and Nobles or perusing on Amazon and they were looking for your story. What would the title of that book be? What would you say would be, this is Taryn's story, or this is maybe even just the beginning of Taryn's story? What would you title it?
Absolutely. So, I had to take some time to think about this and
Yeah.
meditate. I would say, I think the title of my book, as I see it right now, would be My Journey to Full Bloom, right? Like just talking
Mm,
through the stages of a seed and the growth stages and how it becomes a flower. And I think that um,
I
I
love
want
that.
to encompass like my personal journey of growth and transformation. I think life will do its best to bury us sometimes, and
Mhm.
we can easily get comfortable in that darkness. But I think a lot of times we don't realize that dirt, that stillness that we're in, that darkness is really preparing us for what's to come. And so I
Yeah.
think of the you know plant stage of really just realizing like we really should not skip the process.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I just think the moments of darkness are necessary for our preparation, and so it would definitely be my journey to full bloom. because I could go on
I
about that. So I'm gonna be quiet.
love that. I love that. As soon as you said it, I was
Yeah.
like, that makes 100% sense because it is a
Yeah.
journey of starting from a seed and eventually coming into full bloom and really radiating just this purpose that God has given you and just letting that be your walk, letting that be your story, letting that be a reflection of your journey too. And I also immediately thought of Dr. Anita Phillips' book, The Garden Within, because she also speaks about, like, she uses a lot of like plant references and metaphors and relates it to mental health and then also into to faith. And so I love that. My
I'm
journey
so
to
excited
full
to read
bloom.
that book. It is on my deck to read. You
It's
know, we have a book club, so I've
good.
been reading other books, but that is gonna
Yeah,
be my like book to get me through the holiday season. I've heard so many great things about it, so super excited to dive into that.
so good. So good. Speaking of book club, share with
Yeah.
listeners and watchers just like where they can find you, what they can expect from High Functioning Black Girl. If they haven't come across it
Yeah.
on TikTok, which I highly doubt, let them know kind of where they can find you. Tell us all about High Functioning Black Girl.
Absolutely. So if you want to connect with us, which we hope you do, you can find us on Instagram at High Functioning Black Girls, spelled out completely. On TikTok, we are High Functioning Black Girls. Black is spelled BLK. Like Tika said, hopefully you've seen us on there. We are also on Facebook as well. We do have a book club that we hold monthly. We choose a book that's kind of self-help related or Black woman
Mhm.
centered, and there's a close-knit group of us that come together, but we're always ready to grow. So if someone wants to join us, we will be ramping back up in January. And we typically meet on the last Thursday of the month around 7:30. So we'll announce our next book in January. And we may or may not have something coming up. Our anniversary is in February. So we might have some merch or something coming out. So I don't know. Y'all
Ooh,
might want to tune into that. We're excited for 2024. It's going to be a big year. So we are
yes,
hoping
it
that you all join
is.
us for the ride.
Ooh, I'm coming. Look, I want to ride.
Come on, I think you'll love it. We're finishing some things up, so we've been working really hard,
That's
trying to get things
exciting.
together. So we are so excited.
Thank you for sharing that. Make sure you all tap in, get into the community, join the book club. And even if you just watching until you're ready to hop into the community, know that you can still get some impact from that. So we love it. Thank
Absolutely.
you, Taryn, for sharing
Thank you,
that.
Tika.
Of course. Okay. Well, we're going to hop into our next segment, which is our gratitude practice. The G stands for gratitude or goal. The I is for intention. The F is for faith or focus. And the T is for take action. It is our gift. And so sharing your gift is an opportunity to slow down, to mindfully think about things and to really just reflect and give yourself an opportunity to shift your perspective. We know life is not perfect, but you can still be grateful. And so, Taryn, if you want to go first, I'll allow you to share your gift with us.
First of all, I love the acronym.
Thank you.
And again, I really try to take some time to think about this, but I would say um, my gift or gratitude today is that we have safe spaces like this that we can come together and collaborate and discuss
Mhm.
our healing. So I'm so grateful for this space. So that would definitely
Yeah.
be my G in that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the I is for intention. So I think you also talked about something that I would want to embody. I think I want to embody
Yeah.
self compassion and gentleness
Mm-hmm.
and softness and forgiveness. That is something that I am constantly in progress of. Like we talked
Yeah.
about earlier, you don't have to be perfect to start. And so I am too in progress. And so those are things that are always at the forefront of me each day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think that um, the F is for faith. So
Yeah.
I want to, and also focus, like you said. So I
Yeah.
want to um, directly focus or reimagine my relationship with rest. And I know that's something a lot of us
Mm-hmm.
are working on. And I think I'm trying to reframe it to say instead of have I done enough to rest? I really want to ask myself, have I rested enough to do my best work? And so
Ooh,
that is something
yes.
that someone said online. And so I literally keep that like on a post-it. Like, have I rested enough
I
to do my
love
best instead
that.
of, yeah,
Have I
do I
done
need
enough
to
to
keep going?
rest?
Have I
Mm,
done enough to rest? And so
I like that.
that is where my focus is in this season of my life as I go through even professional transitions. Like, I've done enough to earn this rest and this
Yeah,
transition, and it's okay. And I
yeah.
think that the T, which is for taking action,
Hmm.
working through that mindset shift first and foremost, because if we don't shift that, nothing else will happen. I think
Hmm.
I'm also trying to be sure of my boundaries and be certain in those,
That part.
and accepting that as a Black woman, I don't have to do it all, and that there are teams, there are people that want to
Mhm.
help, and so it's okay to lean on those supports. So that would be my gift.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's a wonderful gift. You said another one of my favorite words, which is boundaries. Oh, Jesus.
Oh,
But I love it. I love it. So let's see. My G, my gratitude. My gratitude would be for spaces like yours, for the online communities, because that's kind of how we connect. Well, not kind of, that is a majority of the way that we connect in this day and age, in the digital age. And so I'm grateful that there are spaces where, even though may not be able to physically touch or sit in the presence of someone yet, we can still feel a connection. And so that's what brought us together. I have a lot of internet, like, sister friends, and I'm like,
yes.
look, I have never seen you in person, but look, let me come up to Ohio.
Listen,
um
let's pull up.
I'm grateful for those connections because it really does make a difference, and especially in this hustle and bustle culture, which I am trying to get out of. We need the space online. We need the opportunity to really connect and feel seen. My intention, what I want to embody is, I'm going to say courage. I feel like
Mm,
courage is what she said earlier, is not the absence of fear, but doing things even if you feel scared. And I think
yeah,
that having just turned 33, my birthday being yesterday, there are a lot of changes that I see on the horizon. There are things that I feel like God is downloading, and they are bigger than I think I have the capacity for. And so I know that I need to be courageous. Um, my faith or focus, my focus. Well, my focus would then be to make room for
mm,
the things that are coming. Um, I think often, especially as a high functioning Black girl, there's a lot on my plate sometimes, and that's taking up room for what needs to come. And so I do need to make room, and not just make room, physically or like with the things that are on my plate, but I think also making room in my heart, which is a part of my faith walk. And I think that brings me to my take action. I want to be very intentional about my quiet time. That is going to be what changes the next season of my life. I notice I have not been taking my quiet time like I need to. And that's probably why I feel like there's so much going on and I don't have the capacity, because I'm not releasing, I'm not putting anything down. And
right.
so I need my quiet time to put some things down at the feet of the Lord
Listen.
so that I can so that I can
Mhm.
continue to be who he has purposed me to be. So that's my gift. That is my gift. And
I
I
love that.
really want to hold myself accountable to that. Thank
Well,
you.
you're doing a great job, and I love the way that you have cultivated this space. So, again, I say thank you, and
Thank
thank you
you.
for walking me even through my own story in a way that was soft and vulnerable and empathetic. You are doing a phenomenal job, and I totally agree
Thank
that
you.
God wants you to make room because there's so much in store for you, and here we
Thank
are.
you.
So, super excited for what's to come.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that I can create this space for you. That's something I really enjoy doing. Like it lights me up to know that people, not only that they have a story to tell, but they feel safe to tell it.
Yeah.
Um, because I'm telling you, shame, silence, secrecy, all of those things will keep some of us
Hmm.
bound and quiet and from sharing and giving what we're supposed to give. And we're going to leave this earth with a lot that we should have left.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that you felt that space to be vulnerable and soft, as we have spoken about in the beginning of
Yes,
the episode.
absolutely. I definitely
I
felt that
receive it.
today. So again, thank you
Yeah,
for the space to tell my story. I appreciate that.
of course, of course. Thank you for telling it. Thank you for telling it. All right, good people. So we're getting into I always say this, but one of my favorite topics or parts of the episode, the segment that is called Vibe Tunes ATM. And y'all gonna be so proud of me because the playlists are officially on Spotify and Apple Music. Woo!
Yay, that's
I have been
exciting.
putting this off. Listen, girl, like I said, plate full. But I sat down and I got it done. So if you are looking for the Vibe Tunes ATM playlist, check the link in the descriptions. We got Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube. This is a very eclectic kind of like music collection because it's come from both, some of my favorite vibes, but also those of the guests. And so vibe tunes are really just what is on your heart. It could be related to the episode topic. It could be a tune that you've had in the car because music to me sounds best in the car. It could be something that has really encouraged you. And so, Taryn, if you have a couple of vibe tunes that you'd like to add to our playlist, I would love to hear what those are.
Yes. First of all, I love vibe tunes because we also do a playlist as well, and music is just so soothing.
Yes, it is.
I actually have a laundry list of songs, so I'm gonna try to keep it. I'm gonna try to get down to
Ready.
three.
Okay.
I would say, honestly, I got five, but I'm gonna narrow it to three. I
Okay.
will say "You Will Heal" by Keandra Lockett. That got me through some of my darkest days and seasons. And listening to it now on the other side, um, absolutely amazing. She
Mm-hmm.
like literally tells her story through that song and makes it
Wow.
so relatable. So I will say that can really offer hope. I also love "For Me" by Pink Sweats. He's saying what's for me is for
Mm-hmm.
me, what's mine is mine. And I would say "Now" by Alex Isley, and she's saying
Woo.
like everything is happening now, like that I dreamed about, that I wanted. It's all
Mm-hmm.
coming into fruition, and so I would say those three are
I
on
love
repeat
those.
constantly. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for sharing those. So You Will Heal, you said by Keandra Lockett,
Yes.
For Me by Pink Sweats, and Now by
Yes.
Alex Isley. I love me
Yes.
some Pink Sweats and Alex Isley. All
Oh
right.
my gosh, they're amazing.
They are amazing. I need to see Pink Sweats live. I've seen Alex Isley, but not Pink Sweats.
I've seen
I'm
neither,
trying to
so
do
they're
that.
both on my bucket list, and they both been
You
to
have to.
Cincinnati, and I have not been
Oh,
able to go. But I hope they come back because I'm going.
I hope so. I hope so. So you can see him in 2024. That'll be
Yes,
good.
I'd love that.
Yes.
This
All
was so
right. So
fun.
good. I'm glad you're having fun. All right, y'all. So, okay, my vibe tunes. One is from the high functioning hottie herself. The song Cobra by Megan Thee Stallion that
Yeah.
recently came out. I think I was originally anticipating something completely different than
Mhm.
what she shared. And so if you haven't listened to
Yeah.
this song yet, please listen to it. There is an edited version for the Saints. But she talks about basically how she was going through depression and anxiety, and people were not even noticing. They
Yeah.
weren't paying attention. And she felt alone. She felt like I was almost on the verge of dying, wanting to leave this earth. And Megan Thee Stallion has, her story, just like her parents passing, her grandmother. She basically has no one. And she went through, of course, that traumatic experience with the shooting. And so her mental health expectedly has suffered. But
Right.
in the limelight and as a celebrity, as an artist, there are so many expectations of her as a Black woman to just wear this mask and show up. But the song Cobra, I thought it was going to be about like snakes, like people, like snakes in the grass. But for her, it was about shedding the skin,
Yeah.
shedding her past, and really
Yeah.
reemerging. and letting people know her truth. So I loved it. I loved Cobra. My other one is by an artist that I hope to see live soon. I don't know if she's going to come out with another project or not, but her name is Yeba. And she released a song called Waterfall, and in parentheses, I Adore You. And I'm still listening to that song on repeat because one, I just love Mercy.
Yeah.
But the message is basically, from my understanding, the message is basically about no matter what is going on in life, no matter what people say, no matter what, you think your experiences may be, someone still adores you and still wants to be there with you, whether it's a message to yourself or to another person. And so I hope as Black women, we can see that you're deserving of love, you're deserving of adoration. Life is going to life, but you're still adored and worthy of being shown that love. So Waterfall, I Adore You by Yeba, and Cobra by Megan Thee Stallion. Those are my two.
I love it. I love it. And I agree with Cobra. Like, I was not expecting what she did
At
with that one. I was
all.
just like, the Black girlies
What?
needed that from her. Like, she
We
literally
did.
ate down for all of us and told the stories of so many women. So I'm so glad that she was vulnerable enough to put that out. It's honestly a
Me too.
healing record. I forgot to add that to my playlist. It's on mine too. We're going to share that one.
Listen, we're going to share it. All
We're going
righty.
to share
Well,
that one.
before we end, Taryn, is there anything you feel like I didn't ask or that you're like, I still need to share this? Anything, any stone we left unturned?
No, again, this was phenomenal. It was healing for me. I think each time we can tell our stories, we heal a little bit more. So thank
Yeah.
you for this safe space. I had a wonderful time just talking through this with you today. And maybe we can collaborate on something else in the future. This was great.
Yes. Let's
Yeah.
for sure. All righty. Well, I appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate your sharing. I appreciate your story. And that is everybody. Thank you for listening to He Are the Mind Podcast for Millennials. Let's connect on Facebook and Instagram at the Here We Are Pod with Teka. Also, we are on YouTube, so you may also watch this episode. If you want to share your story, you have feedback for Taryn, or you just want some of those resources that she shared, whether it's the book club, the social medias, email us at theherewearepod@gmail.com. Know that your story can too inspire and encourage someone, and even, like Taryn said, save a life. So don't hold back. Get out of your own way and come to the present knowing that you can really fully bloom. All right. So
beautiful ending.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, y'all. Take good care of yourselves, and happy season finale of season 1. We did it. Woohoo! Thank you.
Everyone.